Good evening, everybody, and I hope you're all well. Welcome to tonight's Monday night panel. We have the honour of having Mildy on tonight. We'll get him on with Vic in a short while. First of all, just like to say about the advisory board, as was put on social media, the Trust newsletter, and various places, if you do want any comments to be passed to the advisory board, please send them to our email, which is admin@stfc-osc.com. If you can put in the subject title advisory board or AB, then we know they're specifically for that purpose. Okay, we will be advertising that as well as we go along through the process. Okay, so without further ado, let's bring Vic on. Good evening, Vic.
Very good evening to you, Chris. I hope all is well.
All is very well, thank you.
Jolly good.
Cornwall I've just had, so I'm back with a vengeance.
Marvellous, yes.
Oh,
sun shone for you, I believe, in the far-off county.
I had the best of the weather. Goodness knows what it's going to be like this week, but I had it last week. So
well, it's been chucking it down in the southwest today, I can assure you of that.
And here. Okay, then, shall we get Mr. Mildenhall on? So here we go, Mildy. You are now live. I won't call you Stephen, I promise.
I know, you scare me when you call me Stephen.
Right, as usual, if there's any questions, please leave them in the comments and we will be back later. Okay, Vic, I'll leave you to it.
Chris, thanks very much indeed. I'm very grateful to Steve Mildenhall for joining us this evening. A very good evening to you and lots to discuss. And we've already asked you if you'll come on for a longer chat about your career at some future date, which we'll be delighted to have that. First and foremost, if I could take you back to the halcyon days of the summer, do you remember those days when you can get petrol for your car, that kind of thing, sun shone, it wasn't raining? Pre-season training. Now, always a time when footballers look forward to a brand new season. Take us back to those days, if you would.
Well, it seems, to me at the moment, it seems a lifetime ago. So much has happened. But yeah, it was an interesting period of time. Obviously, we were looking towards getting everyone back in for the start of pre-season. And obviously, a few things happened on the Friday before that.
I don't know how far you can go with that. What were those things specifically from the playing points of view?
Well, obviously I'd met John McGreal and Rennie, spent a few weeks with both of them. Both great individuals. Had some great chats with them, and obviously we were planning towards and had the plan in place towards pre-season to come back. And obviously, well documented the things that were going on behind the scenes, and players that we weren't able to sign that they'd more or less had lined up to come in. And it was very difficult in the respects of every day that you were coming in, you could see John getting a little bit more frustrated at the fact that he couldn't get these people together. And it was very difficult for him because obviously a new man coming in, we'd just been relegated. A lot of the team had been released. There weren't, obviously well documented again, there was only 7 players at the football club. So needed to get bodies in as quickly as we could. So every day that I came in and met him and leading up to that week to start training, you could just tell his demeanour and you could tell that it was getting more and more frustrated and he was getting agitated that he couldn't get these things in place.
What specifically was the tipping point, do you think? We had the rather bizarre signing of Pierce Sweeney, who now plays down the road from where I am in Exeter City again. But, things like that, you're reading this stuff as a fan and thinking, what is going on? So what do you think the tipping point was for John McGreal and Rennie Gilmartin?
I think it was a culmination of those days leading up to it, knowing that they'd met players, met agents and had agreed contracts, promised things to people, and then those things couldn't get over the line. We couldn't sign anybody. It was, looking back on it now, we're very, very, very lucky that Jojo was under contract and that we took him away from his contract. Otherwise, that would have been another one that could have got away. Thankfully, that didn't happen. But I think it was a culmination of those weeks leading up to it. The fact that, I think for them, they thought these things were going to be in place and they were going to get these players done. And the longer things were going on, the more that they then realised that they couldn't sign these players. We were starting training on that Monday. The first game was only a week away. And I think that was the realisation then that how was he going to get a squad together?
So then, where do you go from there? Because suddenly the manager and the assistant manager go, and there are, literally a handful of people in the building, no money to pay the people in the building. What were your thoughts at that moment?
Well, the Friday was a whirlwind. I got into the ground before everybody, of the football side of it. And when I got in there, Matt Walters come up to me and he said, we obviously knew what was happening and things like that. And people had, a few people had left before. And then that morning, I got in and Matt came up to me and said, Milds, we've got a bit of a problem. Our kit van and all that's gone. We haven't got any transport for Monday. So first and foremost, that was the first thing, we sort of knew about. And I'm thinking,
and this is to go to Calne, I'm guessing, is that
right?
This
is for Jonah and Steve to be able to get everything transported up to Calne. So we're kind of like, right, okay, let's try and sort this out. So called a couple of people up I know and called a few favours in and managed to get something sorted for a van on the Monday. That was about sort of 9 o'clock in the morning, and the gaffer and Rennie, John McGrill and Rennie weren't in at that point. And then they came in a little bit later than what they normally do. And I just had this feeling funny feeling, obviously knowing how he was feeling the days leading up to it. And then they came into the office and I said, cool, I've had a morning of it already trying to firefight, with this van situation. And that's when they both then said to me, listen, you're not going to like this. We're really sorry, but we can't continue. And it was very short, like it would be. They came in, we had a brief chat, they both departed. And then obviously when I knew that had happened, I then obviously knew that the CEO had resigned on the same day. So, about 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, I'm sat there in the office with Matt Walters, and we're kind of just looking at each other going, okay, where do we go from here? So it was a situation of just literally, trying to think on our feet. We were both thrown into a situation that it was, we were starting training on that Monday. How are we going to get this done? And we had a chat between ourselves, and in these situations, I've been in football a long time, but never come across a situation like this. So called a few former managers that I'd played with just to bounce things off of them and try to get an idea. And because my first thought was, right, we can't start training on Monday. We're going to have to try and push this back a few days just to try and buy ourselves a bit of time. And the few managers that I hold their opinion highly, they were like, yeah, absolutely, you've got nothing wrong with doing that. So we were kind of like, right, let's let the lads know. Let's try and put it back a few days, hoping that things would the ball would get rolling. But obviously, as well stated, things took a little bit longer than what I think anybody probably would have envisaged or hoped.
Were you at any point thinking, do you know what, this isn't worth it? I mean, I know you've got a deep love for the club, which is obviously shines through, and many of the comments that are coming in are appreciative of that. But was there a moment when you thought this isn't right for Steve Mildenhall?
No, not at all. When everything was coming out public, I had a few text messages from people asking me what I was doing. There was never going to be a case of that. I've had this conversation with a few people, and it was a difficult 4 weeks. I ain't going to admit it's probably the most difficult 4 weeks I've ever come across. There was a few sleepless nights because from day to day, you're trying to figure out what's going to happen next, what you're trying to preempt what would happen. How are we going to deal with this? How do we solve that problem? How do we keep moving forward day by day? And you could only take it day by day because things kept changing day by day. But, for myself, I done what anybody else would have done, and all the people that were behind the scenes that done it. But for me, there was no chance of that. I owe this football club owes me nothing. I owe a lot to this football club, because without it, I probably would never had a career.
Well, that's fantastic to hear, and we applaud you for it. I mean, and what about that sort of band of brothers and indeed sisters who were working behind the scenes for no money? Was a special bond sort of struck in those times? Yeah,
it was, it was amazing, because on that first day, I got hold of Seamus, Lee Peacock, Dave Farrell, and I said, look, I'm going to need your help. I've got 7 players. We're going to be starting training soon. We need to get the youth team up. There literally wasn't nothing that anybody there wasn't willing to do. It was brilliant, to be fair. It was a strange time, but I was so lucky to have those people around that were there to help and support and would do anything at the drop of a hat. So I think it really showed the true colours of those people that are there, that they just stood up to it. That was before we found out that nobody was getting paid at the end of the month. So people, but after that happened, everybody just cracked on. It was you're only as good as the people that are around you, and there are a lot of good people around.
I think people are appreciative of the players who stuck around as well, because at the end of the day, I'm guessing on the 30th of June they could have just walked away and said, you know what, I'm not being paid, my contract's not being honoured, so I can go. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think I didn't try to get into too much of that. I used to be a PFA rep when I was a player, so I do know the rules and everything. But on that flip side of it, I'm trying to keep the players there, trying to keep them training for the eventuality of a new owner and a new manager coming in. So yeah, the lads that stuck by it, came in every day, never batted an eyelid, cracked on, didn't moan, didn't complain, didn't ask questions, just came in every day and worked. And the first day we were in, the one thing I said to him is, we can't control any of this that's going on. All we can control is what we can do on the training pitch. And that's getting each person fit, not only to be fit for a new person coming in, but fit for themselves, because at the end of the day, they're professionals, and whatever had transpired further down the road, they needed to be fit for themselves as well.
So let me take you to a balmy Tuesday evening at Supermarine then. And a certain Australian turns up, and there's a lot of ballyhoo. Did you know at that point that the club was safe?
I'd been informed that Clem was going to be at the game. I didn't know. Again, people may think that behind those scenes for the 4 weeks, we had an inkling of what was going on. We didn't have a clue. We were literally waiting to hear things. I think obviously it was a difficult situation with the court battle that was going on. Yeah. Clem, the new owner coming in, obviously had legal reasons why he couldn't speak to people at the football club, because it still wasn't his football club. So it was so difficult. So I'd heard the gist that he was going to be there, and that kind of gave me a reassurance that, he's not going to come unless there's some really good news that's going to happen. And, and thankfully it was. And that was that was the turning point going forward. that Supermarine game, even before the new chairman turned up, that was a whirlwind trying to get that game on, considering the Friday Saturday morning we find out that all the youth teams got to isolate.
Yeah.
And it's literally a case of Saturday afternoon, borrowing and calling as many agents up, trying to get bodies in the door to try and get that game on, because we called the game off against Swansea. We put training back. Being a local lad, and the people at the football club were very conscious, and we were very conscious of knowing how important those fixtures were to local teams, and knowing that we need that rapport within the town of supporting each other. So it was, it was no case of let's call that game off. It was, we need to get this game on, like we did with Melksham. We need to do that for Supermarine, because they help us so much as well at times when we need, and they've been great with us so far this season, where we've been training there on a Friday when we have away games that we don't have to travel to Beversbrook, travel back, and then travel on to big distances. So, those bonds are very important.
Well, let's come to more positive times then. The deal goes through. You're involved in the playing side. New manager comes in. New coaches come in. Players start to sign. It was a whirlwind, wasn't it? Was it a case of, who's this coming through the door? I've no idea who you are. Who are you?
It's incredible, where we are now, you look at the short space of time, it's testament to Ben Chorley coming in, the gaffer, the other coaches, that they did the work behind the scenes, knowing that this was going to happen, and to pull the squad together so quickly with so many players. It's, you go in every day and it doesn't feel like a new team pulled together. It really, it does. I'm not trying to make things sound rosy, but you go in there and the lads that are in there, their feels are knit between them already, which has happened so quickly. Yeah,
those of us who were at Scunthorpe on the first day of the season will think, well, hang on a minute, this is a new squad. This shouldn't be happening. You shouldn't be winning 3-1 away from home. It was an extraordinary result, wasn't it?
It was brilliant, and I again, you can only praise the staff that's come in, the fact that walked in the door, changed the energy of the place straight away, positivity straight away from everybody, looking forward rather than looking back at what had happened. It was a new dawn, a new era for it. And it gave us, I think anyone that was there will tell you the lift that we got as well from new people in with a new energy. And that's testament to the gaffer and Scott Lindsay and Scott Marshall.
Let me talk about then the two goalkeepers, because I think we're quite fortunate at the minute, aren't we? We've got two really good goalkeepers, and I know a lot of Exeter City fans rate Lewis Ward very highly. Jojo Wallacott, of course, has been superb. How are they to work with?
They're wonderful. I mean, I'm very lucky in the respects of, we had Jojo done. We were already speaking to Lewis Ward before the previous manager and assistant had left. He was somebody that we'd already identified. So, again, testament to Lewis, because he'd come down, trained, knowing what was going on, stayed with us and trained. Understandable, a couple of times things come up for him to go and train somewhere else, but he kept making it quite clear that he wanted to come here. He wanted to work at the club. He wanted to work in our department. And I think that's great for him, that through all of that, he could have quite easily, from being on the inside when we were training, gone, I'm not too sure about this. This is all up in the air, but he stuck with it as well. So for me, I find myself, I think I'm a very lucky goalkeeping coach at the moment, because I've got two wonderful young goalkeepers, hungry, both got lots of room to improve, but both have got great bases to start from.
Marvellous. Well, let me read some of the comments, because I've got so many of them coming in. And this is from Mitchell. Just want to thank Mildy for all his hard work and the off-season when nobody was around. Whenever I walked my dog, his car was always there, virtually the only car at times. Also, great work on the two keeper signings and getting Granty back in. Anthony Grant, Supermarine. We kind of... did you know he was going to re-sign then or not?
No, we didn't. I mean, it was as I said, it was a case of we were trying to pull bodies together. And as you can imagine from the outside, I'm ringing agents saying, what players have you got? I need this position, this position. They're all a little bit reluctant. Well, you haven't got a manager. Why am I sending him down there? And Peaks was still quite friendly with Granty and spoke to him quite a bit. I mean, I've known Granty since he was 19, unfortunately. But Peaks just text me and said, look, I spoke to Granty. Granty says that, if we need somebody to come in and play, he's more happy to come in and train. So I just called Granty up straight away and said, look, mate, you want to come in and do it? He went, yeah, why not? He said, so, that was great to have him in. And I said to Granty, I don't know what's happening. I don't know whether a manager's going to be in, whether you'll be in the door for when a new manager comes in, but just use it for whatever you can, pal. And, Granty's Granty, and he came in, he cracked on in the game. And obviously he's ended up staying.
Yeah, and you'll know from the reaction he got again in the Peterborough friendly when he came off, just what the crowd think of him. So this is from Dave the Chair, who's a magnificent supporter for the town. Hi, Vic and Steve. Steve, thank you so much for keeping our great club afloat in the early pre-season. It must have been like hell on earth. Town fans will never forget what you and Lee Peacock, etc. did. Two questions, if I may. What did you think of the performance of Shamal George on Saturday, and why did he fail to meet the levels deemed necessary for Town's coaching staff to earn a spot on the 2019-20 squad? And do you have any regrets about any other keepers who have come with a signing in your time as coach? If so, are you allowed to name them? Keep up the good work. Regards, Dave, a.k.a. Dave the Chair. P.S. I was there at Fratton Park on Friday, October. Let's leave that to one side. Ouch, he says. Let's just move on swiftly from that. So there you are. Shamal George, were we involved in that or not?
Yeah, well, obviously that was the infamous season that we won promotion. It was a case of we were looking for the right type of keeper at that moment in time. I didn't think Shamal was at the right point of his career. to be playing first team football, and hence it's taken till this year for him to break into a first team there, and they're difficult. Their opinions in football, and knowing what we were hoping to try and get in there with the Stephen Bender move that finally happened. And it's just things, you've been a young goalkeeper. You look at them, you see how they are, their maturity, what games they've already had, how they've played, are they going to fit? And you have to make a call sometimes. And, like anything in football, nothing is ever personal. It's just personally a professional opinion that you come up with. And, we didn't, or at that time, I didn't, along with Richie, feel that he was going to be the right keeper at that right time. And, thankfully, a certain young Stephen Bender came along.
Yeah, and you also had Luke McCormick, of course, whose experience was second to none. Yeah,
it was invaluable that season. Starting off the season there, giving Stephen time to sit there and watch and see the division, and then when he came in, Luke McCormick, just an ultimate professional, sat there, helped Stephen every day. He was a great help for me to have. I can't speak highly enough of him of how he was as a professional.
Okay, lots to get through, so I'll get through because we're going to let you go in a minute. But this is from Carol. Big thank you to Mildy and all the others that stuck with us and carried on through all over the summer. I'll let you insert the word that you wish. This is from Sean. What's your views on Ben Garner's quote of not scoring many goals? Not a concern. We would be sitting top with a few more goals. I mean, I don't know how far you want to comment on this, but obviously that has been a concern of fans that we aren't getting a lot of goals this season, but we're not conceding many, I guess. So,
no, I'm going to say this word. Everything's a process. The way we're playing football at the moment, we play like we did on Saturday. We're going to win more games than we'll lose. I think that the key to it is, for me personally, I'd be worrying if we were playing that well and not creating the opportunities. We're creating the opportunities. So I think it's just give people a little bit more time. Things will start rolling. Balls will start hitting the back of the net. I get everybody looks always towards, strikers, goal scorers, but everybody has to play their part and chipping in with it. And for me, I'm the same with the gaffer. The overall picture of how we're playing, the fact that we're getting good positions, good opportunities, they will start coming.
This from Steve. Mildy, you're a town legend. As fans, we owe you. So there you go. And this from Andy. How was it working with so many different keepers last season? I mean, you didn't know from 1 minute to the next who was coming in, did you? Quite frankly,
it was difficult. It was a difficult season all round. Would I have wanted to have that many goalkeepers in a season? Absolutely not. Not ideal whatsoever. It's all been well documented. The pandemic came on, the budgets were cut, things like that. I mean, I don't want to go into it too much, but you'd be astonished at the season before what our goalkeeping budget was to what the season was last year. And things happened, and Matty Kovar didn't pan out. We then go to get somebody in, and the situation was we could only bring Mark Travers in on loan, and I wanted to bring another goalie in permanently because of the situation that if Mark ended up getting recalled because they needed him, we then couldn't get anybody from a Premier League club because the rule doesn't allow you, once the window shuts, to get any goalies on loan from the Premier League. So you're then left with a finite amount of teams to pick from. And then going on from January, most of those teams in the Championship who may have 3 decent goalkeepers, they're not going to let one come out because they need that backup. So it becomes a realm of you're playing around with it, and the fact of obviously you could only re-sign them every 7 days, which personally I think is a ludicrous rule when it comes to a goalkeeper. That's something that needs to be looked at, because it just doesn't make sense to be able to say you can sign somebody, but you have to re-sign him every 7 days and every 7 days. So, I take my hat off to the boys that came in, because they came in and they did a job when they could. You have Mark Travers, Connell Truman, Jojo. I mean, Jojo was brought in to be there till the end of the season. And unfortunately, the second game in, Jojo picks up a knee injury. And, we couldn't hang around and wait for it, and we have to do. And the scenario was going down that we're going to have to keep doing these loans. And, Campy had been there in the back for a while. I'd been speaking to him for a while, trying to get that over the line, and he's well experienced, get him signed permanently. And it took a little bit longer than what I would have liked, but thankfully I got him in, and we got relegated, and it was devastating for all of us. But I think you look at what Campy did when he came in, and he gave it his all. You know, he could have easily sat there that year, his career, at his point, and said, "Do you know what, Mills? You're in a battle here. I'm all right, thanks very much." But he was well up for the fight, and he came in and he was absolutely brilliant every single day. And I don't think there's one game that you could look at and say he didn't pull his weight and try his utmost to make sure we stayed in the division. Lots
more comments coming. I'll get through. I'm going to let you go in a second. I know.
That's all right. I've got no rush.
Good. Dean says, so grateful of your service to our club, Mildy. What you did this summer will never be forgotten. Club legend status assured for life. Matt Taylor, nice of the Exeter City manager to get in touch. I don't think it's him. What a hero. Went way beyond the call of duty. Will always be a legend at SN1. Danny,
Matt Taylor from Oxford for a minute, my old teammate. I was going to go. He's not on here.
he's at Walsall at the minute, isn't he? This is
from that's the other Matt Taylor.
Oh, that's the other one. Yes, that's
Matt
right.
Taylor's.
So the song "There's Only One Matt Taylor" doesn't really ring true, does it? This from Danny. I think you've already touched on this. Did Mildy convince the general to come back? We've talked about that a little earlier, didn't we?
Yes.
You and this is from Lee. You and Pete's are legends for taking all that on after all the fiasco. Thanks so much, guys. Debbie says we are so bleep lucky to have you. Thanks, Debbie. What's going on with Grant and McCurdy? I don't know what you can say about that, but I think Anthony Grant, after his international call-up, I think fitness was an issue there.
Yeah,
McCurdy. Quarantine. Yeah,
it's only so much you can do confined to a room, so it's always very difficult. And Harry, he's just been getting over a slight injury that he's had, and hopefully he'll be they'll both be back flowing for tomorrow.
He's fun though, isn't he, to have around? I mean, my gosh, those orange slippers, what's that about? Great.
He's a character.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. This is a very good question, actually. Did you think about playing yourself in goal last season? Was there a point when you thought, I'll have to go and put the gloves on again?
A few people joked about it, but no, there was no point. That was never going to happen. Archie Matthews would have been a far greater a choice.
He's gone to Birmingham now, I think. Is that right? Am I?
Yeah, that was. That was. I wanted to keep Archie. That was our whole thing. We were going to offer Archie a new deal, and then obviously with everything that transpired, Archie wasn't offered a deal, which I'm gutted about. But I knew this would happen. He went somewhere, and he went to Birmingham within 3 or 4 days. Birmingham snapped him straight up. So, good luck to the lad. He did brilliant for last year when he came in at the last minute to play that game when Jojo got injured and done great. And it's a shame for the football club to lose out on a young, promising 19-year-old goalie. But to him, hats off to him. He went there and he's proved, and Birmingham signed him up straight away.
And I think I'm right in saying that it's one game he got a victory, so 100% record.
It is 100%, but yeah. It was an awkward situation because the embargo situation of where any player that had made one appearance was now considered as a senior player, which is a crazy thing because Archie was only 19 and he'd made it through an injury. So it tied a little bit because of everything that was going on going forward. So, gutting for me in a way because I'd love to have kept hold of him.
Well, we're going to let you go now because obviously you've got work to do tomorrow and stuff. So, and I know you've got a family, so that's fair enough. So I'll let you go.
Thank you very much. In their hair.
Thank you very much. And refreshing, honestly. And I think many fans have said it already, but thank you for sticking by the football club because, those of us who just go along and watch every week, it's our football club. And it's still there, and that's all we care about, and people like you. So thank you very much.
It's my football club as well. I'm a hometown boy, and as I said, I got a lot to replay for this football club because I may never had a career if it wasn't for people like John Trollope giving me a chance.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that in greater. Oh, hang on, just quickly. Who released the players last season? Was it Sheridan or Power? Do you know who that was? Who was it who made that decision?
I personally, I don't know. No, I don't know who'd come to the conclusion of who to keep and who not. That scenario.
Okay. Tony, thank you very much. Thank you very much, and we look forward to talking about your career at some point. That would be wonderful.
I will be able to put some people to bed then listening to that.
Yeah, we won't go on about Portsmouth at all.
Too much.
Because you must be fed up with it. Thank you very much. Great to speak to you.
You're more than welcome. You're more than welcome.
Thank you, Steve. And what we'll do is, lots of comments have come in from the fans. So what I'll do is I'll cut them all out and put them in an email and send them to you, because I want you to know and them to know that you've seen them. So I'll do that for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it greatly. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks, Steve. I'm going to remove you now. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. We'll have to get him on for...
get him on a proper on the sofa event. That would be marvellous. And we must apologise to the rest of the panel for keeping them so long.
Yes, we must do. So, sorry, Joe, we'll bring you on, and Andrew, and Mark. We apologise and sorry about that, but I think once you get Vic and Milby on, there's no chance, really, is there? We weren't going to keep 15 minutes. So right. To get on, and then I will be back later.
Thanks, Chris, very much indeed. Let's crack on then. Joe, welcome. Oh, hello, everyone.
Hello.
What's going on here? It's just me at the minute, but I know you're in the background. Hello, Chris. Can you get us all back on again? There we are. Marvellous. Joe, welcome. Just a little word about yourself. You're obviously a Town fan. Tell us how long you've been a Town fan and why are you a Town fan, for goodness sake?
Wow. Born and bred here. My dad to blame. He's probably watching. I think I was about 9 when he first took me out. 35 years or so I've been a Town fan. On and off season ticket holder. I've been the season ticket holder for about the last 15 years consistently. And then when I was a bit younger, a bit of breaks in between when I had sort of children and stuff. But long old time. So I've seen some of the good days back in the 90s, and lucky enough to see the Premier League season and whatnot.
So you've been through the suffering times as well.
I have, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Hawes, a very good evening to you.
Hello, Vic. All right?
Yes, I'm very well. Thank you very much. I trust you are too. Some of the things we talked to about Steve Mildenhall there, I mean, you were obviously very close to it in terms of trying to find out what the bleep was going on. Did you have any idea what was going on at the time?
I think in terms of last season, you could kind of sense it was bad. One of the problems we had was everything was sort of done remotely on sort of Teams and Zoom, so you weren't able to hang around the training ground and guess quite how bad it was. I think sort of chatting to Paul Callis and since others, it was sort of pretty shambolic, and the same with the summer again. We're so desperate to try and find out as much as we could, but yeah, I mean, it was very scary. It was very scary this summer. And on goalkeepers, I should say, it looks like Joe Wallacott has been called up to the Ghana squad for the next World Cup. So, according to the Ghana FA website. So
are you a regular researcher on the Ghana website?
It's one of my less frequented bookmarks, but it appears all legit. So there's a
fair enough. Blue, so. Yeah, so that would affect how many games would that affect?
It's it's like the Forest Green game and the Papa John's Trophy game, que sera, sera. But I guess there's always the prospect of quarantine if he gets sort of put into the final squad. So there we go.
Well, thank you for bringing us that news. Mark, very good evening to you.
Good evening, Vic. Good evening, all. How are you doing? All right.
Are you pleased you at last renewed your season ticket?
I'm very pleased. Yeah, I've been enjoying it. It's been a long debate, wasn't it, about whether I got one or not, and amongst other. Probably the same with a lot of other people, but I think I said this before. You just can't beat being back with a crowd, can you? It's been great in that sense. To have over 8,000 for each of the first 5 home games consecutively has been brilliant.
Yeah, it has been, and I think the thing is, that is an extraordinary figure, isn't it? To get consistently that amount of people. But I have a question here, which I'll ask all of you, and it was sent to me on Twitter. Last night when I'd sent something out saying, we'll be discussing all things STFC. This is from Stephen, and it's a very pertinent question. Stephen says, nothing to discuss. Sideways football will drive fans away. Start attacking. Mark, do you want to kick that one off?
I've got a degree of sympathy for that. We're all mindful of Luke Williams, aren't we? And I can't believe that Garner would want his football team to play slowly. I think he wants us to play a bit like we did on Saturday, but better, moving the ball much quicker. We're obviously going to be a passing team. I think we all accept that. I don't accept that fans want a hoofball style, because we've seen that before and we all hate it. But having said that, I think sometimes maybe there's a bit of frustration about the messing around outside the opposition box. We want them to get it in the box, shoot, and excite the fans in that sense. But I do think that Saturday was probably our best performance. Having said that, we didn't score a goal. So I do have an element of sympathy with that view, I think.
Joe, what's your view on that?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, fundamentally, possession's not going to win you games, is it? You've got to score, and we're not doing that, especially at home. And like we've said, the crowds have been really good, but we've only picked up 5 points at home this season so far. So if we don't start scoring goals, then potentially the crowds will start to dwindle, because people will, just get a bit fed up of coming away from and not seeing us score. So I think there is a bit of a risk there, definitely.
Yeah, and this is from Danny, Andrew, and it kind of goes along with the same point. We've made a decent start and we're playing some excellent football. Clearly, we're very fortunate to be where we are, but do the panel think we've missed a trick in not securing an experienced striker? Now, my view of Tyrese Simpson is he's excellent. He's going to be an absolute beast when he gets older. And there was a great moment. He missed a great chance Saturday, let's be honest. But there was a moment when he lost the ball and he chased 30 yards back and put the player under pressure, which to me sums up Tyrese Simpson. But what about the experienced striker alongside him?
I think there are sort of two problems. I think one is the amount of wages you can pay because of the embargo. It's whether those, I think it's £1,200, £1,300 a week. I'm not sure that might even buy you a sort of experienced, proven League Two striker, even that sounds like a lot of money to you and I. So I think that's one. But I think the embargo also affects the overall size of the squad and whether they can perhaps bring in one extra player in January if they want to. So it feels a bit like sort of circumstances have combined that they're a bit short. They're a bit short on where they can, on the numbers they can have in the squad and the money, and so perhaps missing out on the striker is a consequence of that. I think Alex Gilbert's sort of starting to play more, sort of a bit more freely and a bit more towards him. But yes, I think in a perfect world we'd love someone with a bit of nous who could finish off some of the chances Tyrese Simpson hasn't yet. But I do agree. I think the improvement you see in him from the Scunthorpe game to last Saturday's noticeable. If he can keep that sort of level of development going up, then hopefully he can be the kind of player you can rely on for sort of 40 odd games a season. Yeah,
I mean, I think for a young player, Mark, you see the signs there, don't you? We've had some great loanies over the years, haven't we? In terms of players who've gone on to have fantastic careers. And you look at him and you think, do you know what, in 2 or 3 years' time, we might be saying we had Tyrese Simpson for a while, He's that sort of player, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a very promising player, I think. He's a very different player, isn't he, to strikers we've had in the past. You can think of Brett Pittman last year, and I think he'd have been chasing back after that ball for 30 yards, wouldn't he? He'd have been struggling. That probably would have been, getting subbed off, I suspect. But he's a good lad. It's maybe not a natural goal scorer. I do understand Andrew's points about, the fact that the embargo prevents us from signing somebody, which is a real shame. Some people have gone for the likes of a Jose and people like that who was out of contract, I believe. I don't know. It's a difficult one. We scored 9 goals in 9 league games. It's not enough. But then again, we conceded 7. So that's good. We've got a miserly defence. So swings and roundabouts, I guess, a bit.
I think there's quite a lot of expectation on him. He's very young, and people do need to remember that. It's quite a lot of expectation to expect him to play, like Andrew said, 40 odd games, 90 minutes each game. And there's, of course, the risk if he does get injured, we've not got anyone really to replace him in that role.
Yeah, and playing a lone striker is not an easy gig, is it? I mean, you have to work really hard. And this from Carl, agree, get some crosses in the box. We look dangerous when we put a decent one in. Wingers need to believe. Keith says, I enjoy Ben Garner's style. If we were scoring regularly, it would be perfect. Tom says, Colchester keeper got man of the match, says something. Kevin says, if we took our chances on Saturday, we could have won 2-0. Doing okay. Goals will come. And Dan says, I think we made a pretty good start to the season. 13 points from 9 games is probably better than we expected. Should we reevaluate our expectations for the season or still think that safety is first priority? Discuss. Joe, what were your expectations at the start of the season?
What, the first game or before we'd even started?
Before we'd started, what would you have hoped for?
Well, staying up, yeah. Not to start next season. Well, firstly, to still have a club, and secondly, not to start next season in the National League. But then I think you can't help but then start to change your opinion a bit when you start to see the players coming in and think, oh, this is looking a bit better. And, when you sort of got re-signed Grant and then we've got Williams and people like that coming in, you start to think, well, actually, maybe we are going to look for a bit more than that. So, but I mean, fundamentally, you've got to be happy with just staying in the league, I suppose, after everything that's gone on. So,
yeah, I think Ben Garner, Andrew, sees this as a season of progression, doesn't he? And consolidation, really. I mean, when Johnny Williams, I've said this before, but I was out with my walking football club having a nice pizza by the Quay in Exeter, and the news of the signing came through. It knocked my socks off. Did it knock your hat off when that happened?
It did. It's one of the rare times it went. I must admit, I think we're still waiting to see the very best of him as well as he kind of gets integrated into the side. But no, I think my expectations have gone from where sort of Joe's worst to like stay up, survive. I think I'm slightly good. I think I expect to be safe and entertained along the way now. I think that's where I put it. If we can sneak a bit higher, good. But it may take a while to get everyone together to fully sort of get the Ben Garner style going. It does seem like we're going to have quite a lot of tight games and it's going to be quite an even division. I think apart from Scunthorpe, who looked, I think, poor, everyone has looked about the same. Tranmere were quite handy, but they've got a problem scoring as well. So I'm not sure there are going to be too many sort of straightforward teams to roll over either.
No. And what about you, Mark? I mean, we talked about this many times before, and just above the dotted line would have suited us quite happily in June, let's be honest. We didn't even know we had a football club in June. So what are your thoughts now?
I agree with both Joe and Andrew. I think, your expectations at the start are okay. We want to, we've got a Football League club to support, which is fantastic, given what's happened over the last 6 months to a year and more. And then you think just above the dotted line, but you see the players arrive and you think, well, actually, come on, let's kick on. I honestly think a top 10 finish would be more than satisfactory. If we got anywhere near the playoffs, that would be brilliant. But I think a season of consolidation, you look to build then for next season and have a proper go at it. And when we have a proper go at it, hopefully free from the embargo, we need some strikers in. Because the success of this football club in the past has been founded on strikers and usually partnerships. If you look at the Mays and Rowland back in the 70s, the Parkin and Mooney, the Painter and Charlie Austin, that's where we've done really well. I'm not a huge fan of one striker. I think strikers work together in tandem, and I like Tyree Simpson. I think he's a great lad, but I think we need some more support from up top.
Yeah, I think Clem Morfuni's view when he was on this a few weeks ago was, we'll see where we are in January. Yeah. He doesn't necessarily want to spend money on
that's fair enough.
Getting the embargo lifted.
But you can't criticise him.
No. No. So his view is that they'll wait and see where they are and then decide what to do then. This from Anthony. Vic, did you enjoy yourself in the posh seats on Saturday? You look very smart in your beige suit. I went to hospitality on Saturday. I did enjoy myself, and it was a suit that's ill-fitted. So thank you very much for the compliment. But I would say that Ben Garner came out beforehand and met the sponsors, as he always does. And thanks for the Supporters Club, by the way, for the invitation. And he said this was very much a season of consolidation, and then we'll see where we are, and then possibly next season is the season to push on. Are you happy with that, Joe, as a fan?
Yeah, I think you've got to be, haven't you, really? I suppose it'll be a bit disappointing if we end up just missing out by a matter of a couple of points or something like that. I'd almost rather we were way off it, and so it is a real season of consolidation than be sort of getting towards the end of the season and sort of in that, are we going to sneak into the sort of the playoffs or something like that? But then quite honestly, I don't think I'd ever want to do playoffs again after our last few. attempts.
They are a nightmare, aren't they? Let's be honest. What do you think, Andrew? I mean, you know, you've seen more than most, and you know, in terms of the football that we're playing, I've got to say, I have heard lots of comments about it, and you know, the old forward cry comes up quite a lot. What is your view?
I do get the slight Luke Williams echoes. I totally see where people are coming from. That there's a lot of possession. Sometimes, especially in the first half of games, it's felt a bit sort of sterile possession where the back two or the back three are generally kind of patiently knocking it between each other a long way from goal. It's like in the second half against Colchester, when they're doing that on the halfway line, you're not so concerned because there's a chance to sort of get through with a couple of passes. I think I can understand people's frustration that perhaps the ball doesn't go into the box enough, because I think at League Two level it's a lot easier to put in a half decent cross and see defenders panic in a way they don't in League One. So I wonder if there is a case for you know, perhaps a little more sort of direct play occasion. A few early crosses, they can't all be as good as Kane Kessler Hayden's on Saturday, but if they could do that, so no, I'm just, you know, in an era where we're all meant to have strong opinions, I'm genuinely torn about it. You can see in that second half against Colchester the sort of aim of it and the progression. You can see the type of goals they've scored, but I can also understand people's frustration that they do want to see perhaps more made of attacking opportunities where 1, 2, or sometimes it feels like almost 2 or 3 opportunities to put the ball into the box are turned down.
Is it? I mean, does our style suit playing away more? Do you think?
I'm starting to think it does, because if you think about the goals we've scored recently, they have come from being able to sort of get in behind teams and cut the ball back across the box. If you think of the one at Northampton, I think the Port Vale one's the same. The winner against Mansfield's a bit different, but again, it's another sort of low cross for Simpson to go and attack. So perhaps there is something in that, you know, home teams who feel they have to push on and be a bit more attacking will leave that space sort of around the back that we seem to be able to exploit and get those sort of cutbacks across goal and create chances that way.
Fair enough. This from Sean. When you mentioned the playoffs, Joe, we do league titles in this league, Joe. Oh, that's a fair point. Yeah. This is from Dan. Mark, how would the panel assess the job Ben Garner has done so far and the kind of football we're playing? Now, you know, we spoke to Steve earlier, of course, and, you know, they didn't know who was coming through the door, and it must have been like, who's this? Who's that? Who's this? You know, and from, 5, 6, 7 players, we had a squad. Extraordinary, really. Yeah,
I think we have to commend him for the job that he's done. That, you know, I think he's done very, very well. He's recruited a good side. He's obviously built them. He's obviously got a style of play. Whatever we have as frustrations about the style of play, I think we acknowledge that there is a style, which is really good. And I also get a sense that, given the lack of pre-season that many of these players have, they're getting fitter. And that again is excellent, isn't it? When you consider what we were like 9-10 weeks ago. So I commend him for that. I congratulate him. But I do echo what both Andrew and Joe, and probably some people making comments coming in, are saying that there's nothing wrong sometimes with a long ball. There's nothing wrong with a cross into the box. There's nothing wrong with sometimes, you know, battling for a 50-50. It doesn't all have to rely on passing and stats. You don't win games by having 65% possession. Leicester City proved that when they won the Premiership 4 or 5 years ago. You mix it up sometimes, throw in a long ball, throw in a cross, and see who gets on the end of it. You know, Tyrese Simpson on Saturday had our best chance from a cross. Yeah, scored a goal from a cross by Johnny Williams against Mansfield. It proves the point. So mix it up.
He does seem a bit reluctant as well to sometimes make substitutions. So again, on Saturday, there was only one substitution made, and that was very late on. And it sort of felt like Colchester were there for the taking, really. When we were running at them, you know, they were a bit disorganised, and we just didn't really capitalise on that.
Yeah, there was a spell when we were on top, and that was the moment when, I mean, obviously the Tyrese Simpson chance, if that goes in, we go away with 3 points, and we're all going, great, you know, fabulous stuff. So, where do you stand on Harry McCurdy? Because I think he's just great. You know, I just think he's one of these bonkers players at a football club that occasionally might come on and do something quite magical. Where do you stand on him?
I mean, I quite like him. I think he's sometimes he tries to be a bit too tricky instead of just doing the sort of the basics, and then inevitably loses the ball and goes on a bit of a rant like a child. But no, I think he's definitely the sort of player who's potentially always going to just sort of make something out of nothing, I think. So I think he would have probably been quite good on Saturday.
Yeah.
And obviously wasn't available or still injured, whatever. But.
Yeah, and anyone who wears orange slippers getting off a bus, you can't argue with that, really, can you? Andrew, this is from Dave. Does Andrew know if the contracts have extension options on? I mean, I'm guessing that they were all kind of not cobbled together, but you know what I mean? They were all kind of last-minute signings, a lot of them. Do you know what the deal is with this?
I must admit I don't in terms of extensions. I mean, it feels like some of the players have been brought in for, in theory, a sort of 2-season job. You'd imagine you want Lewis Reed, for example, to bed in this season and then be part of a squad that you can put together next season. So I don't know if that's been done in mind. Again, I think I've got a feeling the embargo may limit what you can offer in terms of contracts, but whether they've been done with a sort of understanding, this is how it has to be for this season, but as long as everything goes according to plan, then maybe next season. But I'm speculating there, so that's a bit of a mystery. I would love to uncover every bit as much as Dave would.
Yeah, okay. I would say Lewis Reed's had his best game on Saturday. I thought he was brilliant, and you know, I just thought he was terrific. And that's the first time we've really seen him put in that sort of performance. So hopefully he'll kick on from there. Where are we at? Oh yeah. Perhaps this is from Steve. Perhaps Clem will bring an Aussie striker back with him as an early Christmas present. I think he comes out of quarantine tomorrow, so we'll see what happens from there. This is from Ian regarding Tyrese. If we do make him into a far better player, can Ipswich recall him in January? As they're not looking in a happy place. They're not, are they? I mean, they're really struggling, aren't they? And you know, I guess I don't know. Can they, Andrew, or is it a season-long loan where they can't? I don't know.
I think I remember all these deals, in theory, have that recall clause in for better or worse. For better with Kovac, for worse with Doyle, as it were. So.
Yeah, fair enough. Right, here's one from Brad, Mark. Maybe you want to wade in on this. Gladwin, shadow of the player we once knew. Do you feel for him as he's playing way too deep? I'd gamble and stick him up top with Simpson. Discuss.
I've commented a few times on social media, actually, because I'm afraid that Swindon Town fans, rather like a lot of fans at different football clubs, like to have a scapegoat. And at the moment, Gladwin seems to be some people's scapegoats. Now, I would accept he's probably not the player he was when he was down here before, but I would also look at his fitness or lack of it, and I think Saturday was his best game. He tired towards the end, but Gladwin can do things that other players can't. He can pick a pass. He can score a goal. He has this languid style, and I think that's what some fans don't understand. They think that equates to a lack of endeavour. It doesn't. He was trying just as much as anybody else on Saturday, and I don't frankly understand quite why some fans have to point a finger at certain players. It certainly won't make them better. So leave Gladwin alone. Let him get on with it. I think he's absolutely fine. I think he's capable of destroying teams in this league as and when he's had more games under his belt.
Mark Merriman will be delivering the pre-match team talk on Saturday at Bristol Rovers. Joe, your view on that?
Yeah, I mean, there was somebody a couple of rows behind me on Saturday who had it in for him from the first minute, and just constantly sort of shouting and calling him lazy. And he does look a bit like that, the way he plays. He sometimes can look a bit lazy, but I think it is just the way he plays. And I mean, I think, is this his fourth time I think he's with us? But the second and third times, I mean, he wasn't as good then as he was the first time. He's never gone to the heights that when he was here first time round. And I think people, again, got a bit excited when they saw him coming in and probably expected a lot more. But he's not been playing regular football for a long time. So, and suddenly, again, he played 90 minutes on Saturday. I would have taken him off because he was clearly tired, but he was left on. So, hopefully it'll come good for him.
We took him off against Port Vale and it was 1 each. And we lost 2-1. And I thought he was having his best game. I wouldn't have taken him off at the time. And frankly, I simply, as I said before, I simply do not understand why some fans want to have a go at a player from the very start. That's not my definition of support.
Yeah.
I think my memories of it. I know there was a Sheffield United game at home, obviously, but I remember at Notts County in his first spell. I think we won 3-0. He absolutely ripped them to bits, and it was an extraordinary performance. So he can do it. Let's hope he can do it at some point. This from Simon. Colchester's defence would have had a nightmare had McCurdy been playing. Play McCurdy up front with Simpson. Now, here's an interesting one from Dan. Will it be interesting to see the kind of reception Ben Garner will get at Bristol Rovers on Saturday? Joey Barton can hardly call his time there poor when he's done a worse job in more time in charge. Now, there are so many things going on Saturday, Andrew Hawes. What was one thing and another? I don't know the state of fitness of a former centre forward of ours or indeed anything else, but it's quite an interesting and tasty little fixture, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think Leon Clark is out. I think Brett Pittman is playing and therefore will presumably be as fit as he can be. I suspect Ben Garner is going to totally play it down, is my expectation. I sort of asked him one question about it after him on Saturday, kind of didn't really sort of try and get the pot boiling, as it were, sort of give him a free hit, see if he wanted to talk about it. I don't think he'll make a big fuss about what Joey Barton has said about him, which is not complimentary. I assume the reception he'll get will depend on whether Bristol Rovers go 1-0 down or 1-0 up. I would think if they go 1-0 down early on, then I think Joey Barton will be right back under pressure. But no, there are a lot of delicious subplots boiling, which make the build up very easy for people like me.
Yes, Mark, obviously Mr. Pittman up front for Bristol Rovers, that will be an interesting one, won't it? Especially, if they're attacking the town supporters late in the second half and he's still on the pitch. That'll be an interesting one.
It's a tasty fixture, isn't it, when you look at it and consider it carefully? Yeah, and I just asked myself, I was thinking about it earlier on, who would you rather have as manager? Joey, I can conquer the world, Barton, or our man, and I think the answer's a no-brainer. That's not to say Barton might not be successful. He might well be, but you just want somebody. Andrew said our man, Ben Garner, will underplay things. That's precisely what you want. You don't want somebody coming on saying we're going to do this, that and the other, because it comes back to bite you in the backside. And he's almost got to get promotion, I think, with what he said. We don't. The pressure's not on Swindon Town. It is on Bristol Rovers, I think.
Yeah, I think they won away, didn't they, Saturday?
Yeah.
Joe, are you going Saturday?
I'm not, because I've missed out on tickets. I had problems online because mine and my son's accounts and my dad's weren't linked for some reason, and I couldn't get through on the phone, and then they'd all gone. So unfortunately, having to miss it Saturday.
Oh dear, you'll have to listen to Mr. Hawes then. What is your view of that game then?
No, I think it'll be a good game. I can see it being a draw, to be honest. I don't know, I've got a feeling it'll be 1-1. But it'll be interesting. And I fully expect Brett Pittman to score as well. Because it always seems to happen.
Yeah.
Our ex-strikers score against us.
You can just see him shinning one in the top corner, can't you? That's it. Andrew, it is an interesting fixture, and we don't want to put too much on it. But if we did get a point, as Joe said, that would be 4 successive draws. It's consistent. I get it. But I don't want to quote a former manager saying three draws is the same as a win, but I will. Where do we go if we keep drawing games rather than winning?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think a sort of high scoring draw would be better than a low scoring draw in some ways, just to prove we can get goals. Yeah, I don't know if it's a stat relevant or not, but I'm sure the considerable number of Anthony Grant fans will be interested to figure out that we haven't won in the league since he left to go off on his international duty. I don't know whether that's coincidence or not, but you can use stats to prove anything if you want. Again, it is all about the kind of level of expectation. There's a point at Bristol Rovers. I think if you looked at that before the start of the season, we'd probably take that given their ambitions and our relative ambitions. But it feels like there is the ability to get more. So I don't think we do want to get sort of bogged down in even in a kind of sequence of draws, because then I think that sort of feel good and momentum will drip away and people will get a bit antsy, which it just sounds like there's the very sort of first signs of, doesn't it, after the Colchester game.
Fair point from Michael. He says rather be drawing games and watching Swindon than not having a club at all. I think we'd all go along with that. No question. Yeah, absolutely. Tony says 3-0, Gladwin hat trick. That'd suit you, wouldn't it, Mark?
Yeah, pleased with that.
Yeah. Steve says it's a shame they don't publish the players' performance stats, e.g. how far they've run, pulse, etc. I mean, they have so many gizmos these days, which, in the past they wouldn't have known how far they've run, but I think they know how many steps they take now, so it's quite extraordinary. So thank you all very much indeed. We've come to the end of our time. Joe, did you enjoy it?
Thank you. I did, yeah. Thank you very much.
Mr. Hawes, will you come back at some point in the future?
Very happy if you want me, yes.
Yes, we would definitely want to have you. And Mark, you'll come back, I'm sure.
I certainly will. Thanks, man.
Marvellous. Thank you. There you are, Chris. Just before I go, I was reminded this afternoon, I went to the Exeter City Senior Reds AGM. I am a member of all right, don't throw things at me, all right? But we had, and I'm reminded that Exeter City's women's team will be playing at the county ground in Swindon on the 31st of October. It's a Sunday. It's a 2:00 kickoff. And so I think everybody involved would love some support. So that's a home game for Swindon Town's women's team against Exeter City on the 31st of October at 2:00. So just put that in the diary, because women's football is on the up, which is great. And they would very much like your support. Chris.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for watching and all your comments. Sorry we couldn't get through them all. Again, there was a lot tonight. We will be getting Steve Mildenhall back, I'm sure, in the near future to do a longer stint with Vic, and those questions can be asked again from Stephen. So we will be back on the 18th of October following the Rochdale game. It seems a long time away, but
unless something happens in the meantime.
Unless something happens in the meantime, so keep an eye on social media. So thanks everybody watching. Thank you, panel, and we'll see you all again soon. Bye.
Thanks. Bye. Bye.